Hey, welcome back to my channel. I'm Susan Corbett. I do custom quilting, and here today what we've got is a modern throw. I think it turned out really well. It's a pretty simple game plan. A star to serve as the medallion, and partials of it to fill in similar shapes around the perimeter, and a suite of modern circular designs. So, as usual, what I did was stabilize the quilt to begin with. I ditch quilted around all those circles and in between spaces, just so I could run around the whole quilt and flip from here to there. And the first thing I began putting in with taupe thread, it's some Omni by Superior. I found a digital design, well, a set of designs that came loaded on my new computer long arm, and started putting those in. Some of these designs had to be modified. There is a masking tool on the long arm that lets me erase part of a design, and I can change the size and rotate things, and so that was a lot of fun. And I got those designs whipped into shape so they'd fit in these spaces. But I don't think they fit perfectly, but they fill up the space pretty darn well. It's a cute modern design, and you'll be seeing variations of it throughout the whole quilt. So here is my computer doing it for me. This part went relatively quickly, although any kind of custom work is going to take some time. And it took time initially to figure out what the size was going to need to be and how each design was going to go and what exactly to put in each shape. So there's half circles that needed to be filled, whole circles. Then I ended up with some shapes that are a square. So there was a version of this same fan design that fit really well in the square, and that was pretty great. I believe I stabilized in clear thread and then switched to this poly. And in the center, the medallion, I went with a teal thread after consulting with the client. Actually, there's any number of good thread choices, color choices, that could have applied here. I could have done all the quilting in taupe or teal or orange. Okay, so there was my new favorite tool. It's a Clover chalk wheel marker, and you can see how it works right here. It's not going to show up on light colored fabrics, only dark ones, but I don't need a lot of it. So I have this drafting tool that helps me get squares, and I use it a lot for channel quilting, just to make sure I have the angles correct. So after I put in the star in the middle and all these circular designs in the circular shapes, then I'm filling in with straight lines. And they change directions, which you can see if you look closely at the finished item, but it's all the same thing over and over and over. So I framed that star in the middle with pairs of concentric squares, or I guess you could say parts of a square, since you only end up with a partial here. And there's a lot of fullness left over in the unstabilized parts, which is why I'm using these pins to hold the fabric in place and take up some of the slack. I really like these flat head, thin, straight pins. I'm using them all the time to help me stabilize while I'm stabilizing. I can quilt right over them. Thank goodness. So I'm putting in a pair of lines about a ½ inch or maybe 3/8 of an inch apart. That gets our basic structure put in place. I'm taking the liberty here of quilting back and forth. This does not always work. Sometimes the presser foot likes to push the fabric, and then you get it pushed in one direction and then pushed in the other direction. If that starts happening, then you've got to quilt in the same direction each time, and that gets you a whole lot more stops and starts. But pinning the fabric in place, I think, helped minimize that problem a great deal. So I was grateful for that. That helps it go a lot faster. See the partial star at the top of the quilt here? All that was going to go in really light colored fabric, so I switched to a lighter color. It's great when you can quilt the whole quilt in one color thread or one same type of thread, but I like to switch back and forth. It'll, like, a lot of times you won't even be able to tell that that's what happened, but I will know. It's kind of a trick to decide when I want a contrasting thread and when I want one that matches. That's just going to depend on the quilt and the look you're going for. So here I designed the straight lines purposely to be able to quilt in that ditch so I don't have that seam sticking up. That's a thing that really bugs me. I want it to lie flat. So I got my half square put in, and then I'm filling in with pairs of straight lines that go in another direction. And why am I doing that? Because I want contrast, all different kinds of contrast. It's good contrast to have these lines up against all these curves, and it's also good contrast to have the lines going in different directions. Pairs of lines, triple lines, look a whole lot better than just a bunch of evenly spaced lines. And I'm using my hem gauge here to sort of get the increment between the pairs of lines to be the same. It's not perfect. I'm not being precious about it because this is not a show quilt. This is a throw. I mean, not that I want to do bad quilting here, but perfection is not part of the game. The object here was, let's get this quilted in a modern way, attractively, but with no heavy quilting. And I think I got that done pretty well. There's only one issue I'm concerned about, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. It's nice to use rulers that have lines on them. That helps a whole lot. And this ruler is good because it has a 45-degree angle there at one of the edges. That comes in handy. So here the thing to think about is, because this looks like, there's not a lot to think about, but there is. What you have to keep straight is, which line am I on right now? And pairs of lines and triple lines will keep you focused on, because it's so easy to mess up with straight lines. It is really easy to have your mind wander someplace else, and then you've got a big mistake because you missed the repeat of the line or something. So these lines just get smaller and smaller as we go up into the triangle. And I lucked out a lot because they seemed to just work out really well. Even though I wasn't doing a lot of marking or a lot of math. See, I love the texture. I love it. It's very simple, and this is pretty much what the client was asking for. Now on the right or left of this orientation, the lines will be going vertically. And I don't have to think about that because the quilt is automatically going to tell me which way they need to go. That's just how the shapes are going to be. So I didn't have to plan a lot of different things. This is really just playing with geometry. Now I really wanted to fill in with some dimensional quilting. So it was kind of killing me not to do that, but that was not the game plan here. Now see the weird leftover shapes where my left hand is. So those are also going to get straight lines. And that was probably the most confusing part of it because I had to think which way are those lines going to go and where do I start? And because doing pairs of lines, well, it was just easy to get confused. And the part I'm doing right now, that's where it can get a little tedious in those little shapes. But it wasn't bad. And you do need to fill in the whole thing until it gets down almost to nothing, or it'll look weird. This helps sell the illusion that those straight lines are behind those circles. In the very corners of the quilt, I've done like a quarter of that center star. And then what that set up for me was, see right here, that unquilted cream colored shape. But I'll get over it. Here's a look at the back of the quilt. Look how gorgeous it is. And you can sort of see the thread color changes. And there's the finished project. It's just so beautiful. Thanks for watching.